We're live. Excellent.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. If you're watching this after the fact or if you're watching this currently, welcome to the Story of Slayer stream with my mate John at Rock and Metal Reviews. So basically, we're going to be going through history and story of Slayer. And also, this is, as I mentioned before, this is going to be the last one that we're going to be doing. Mainly just because of, bands that I don't know particularly well. I don't think that a lot of the bands that I was thinking of that we could do, I don't think it would go as well because I don't know them as well. So basically, we just thought it might be better to leave it here with these streams, but hopefully we'll do something different in the future, a sort of a different type of streaming series or just a series in general. So as I say, there's going to be there's a playlist on the channel of all the episodes if you've missed any of these. And so a lot of people that have seen these so far will know the gist of the series. All right, Mickey. So basically we'll go through the history of the band, and then we're going to have a little bit of a discussion at the end, talking about the potential future of the band, and we'll see how that goes. So, I hope you all enjoy this final one. And without any further ado, let's get straight into it. So we're going to start off with the 80s, and John is going to start us off going through the 80s.
Okay. My story starts in 1981. They formed in Huntington Park, California. And the original members were Kerry King, Jeff Hanneman, Dave Lombardo, and Tom Araya. They started as a cover band. They were playing songs from Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, Venom, and they were playing mostly parties and clubs in Southern California. And they had this like image at first, like they used to like wear makeup, where you could see in some of their old pictures they would have like the dark eye makeup and a lot of like the like demonic satanic stuff, like the pentagrams and the black clothes and the crosses and all that. That was their whole thing. Now I'm gonna switch to I'm gonna move up to 1983. I didn't really find any info on 82. So in 83 is where they get discovered. They're playing a show in the Woodstock Club in Anaheim, California. They're opening for a band called Bitch, who I've never heard of, but they were discovered by Brian Slagle. He's the founder of Metal Blade, and he asked them to write a song or record a song for their compilation. It was actually the Metal Massacre 3 compilation, which was something that was big in the early 80s. So the song they chose was called Aggressive Perfector. That was from Metal Massacre 3. And then because of that song, they got the recording contract with Metal Blade Records. So they recorded their debut album called Show No Mercy. It was self-financed and released in December 1983. Kind of gained the underground popularity. So this is an album. I like it. It's not like one of my top. I'd probably rank it in the top 5. I really like the song like Black Magic. Like that's maybe one of my favorites. And then, but it's a lot of like heavy, fast thrash metal. Like has other songs like The Antichrist and a couple of others. I don't have the track list in front of me, but that's a good one. So let me go up to 1984.
Yeah.
Now we have. Actually, Fire King X says "Ready to Face the Slayer." That was the other song I really like. That's a great song. Yeah. Okay, so I'm back in 1984. Kerry King. Here's something I found interesting. I didn't notice. Kerry King. He was in Megadeth for a little while, but he just played. He just played a couple of shows, and then I guess he went back to. He didn't stay in the band, but that was pretty cool. And then
Pretty cool.
Slayer released an EP called "Haunting the Chapel," which has I think it had like 3 songs on there. So that was pretty cool. And then they go on a national club tour, and then they record a live album called "Live Undead" in New York City. That's a pretty cool live album. Yeah,
That's got it.
you got that one, yeah.
Yeah, this is my dad's.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah,
Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty decent track listing as well. A lot of obviously the first album and a little bit of Haunting the Chapel on there as well. Pretty cool.
yeah, that's cool. That you got that on vinyl.
Yeah. It's an OG. One of my dad's.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So where was okay? So let me go into 1985. So right now they're a little bigger. They're touring. Okay. Yeah. Hey guys. Okay. So they're touring with bands like Venom, Exodus, Megadeth, Destruction, and a few others. Their album "Show No Mercy" selling pretty well. It reached 40,000 copies, which is pretty good for, this is an underground band. They're not on the radio or nothing. And then they released their second full-length album called "Hell Awaits."
Mm-hmm.
This one has like longer, more complex song structures. This is probably you have the one. This one, this is maybe like my favorite. It's like that's like a really good album because it's like a thrash album. It's like super dark. I mean, it's like the sounds of like going to hell. I mean, that's what it's all about. And just from the opening tracks, "Hell Awaits," "Kill Again," "At Dawn They Sleep." I mean, those are all like killer songs.
Mm-hmm.
"Praise of Death," "Necrophilia," "Crypts of Eternity," and
Yeah.
that final song, "Hardening of the Arteries." That's such an awesome song. So this I never did a Slayer ranking. I'm pretty much due for one, but this one would be up very high, possibly number one.
Yeah. I think I will as well at some point because I've listened to all the albums now. But I think this Trevor saying about Kerry King in Megadeth. It was the first 5 shows. Cool. They had a feud. Okay, early Slayer. Yeah, early Slayer is awesome. Yeah. Okay, so they had a feud, him and Kerry King and Dave Mustaine, which is not really that surprising to be honest. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me move on. Moving on to 1986. So Slayer signs with Def Jam Records. Kind of weird. That's like a rap. That was like a rap group, but they signed Slayer. I think this was like their only like metal album they've ever produced, and the producer was Rick Rubin, and they released "Rain in Blood." This is a lot of people say this is like the best thrash album, or one of the best thrash albums ever. I think it's good. For me, I would say there were a couple others I would rank higher than this because it's good, but it's just like straightforward thrash all the way through. It's like a 30-minute album. I have it like at 29 or 28:55. The opener and closer are the best songs. "Angel of Death" and opens with that and closes with "Raining Blood." I mean, those are killer songs.
Yeah,
and I think I like the first side, "Piece by Piece." I like "Necrophobic" is good. "Altar of Sacrifice."
Yeah.
And on the second side, "Criminally Insane." And then the other ones are still good, but okay.
Yeah.
But
okay.
Yeah, I know a lot of people love this one.
Yeah. That's fair enough. Yeah. For me, it's my favorite personally, but
okay,
that's cool.
I mean, I would rank it high, but I'd probably have it ranked around 4 or 5 in that area. because I think that there are a few more that I like better than this, but it's still like if you like thrash, like just straightforward thrash metal, like start to finish, like when everything's just fast and heavy, like this is just the perfect album for that. Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on, 1987, they go on tour. It's called the Rain and Pain World Tour with Overkill and Malice. Drummer Dave Lombardo, he leaves the band temporarily due to financial concerns, but returns later that year. And Slayer records a cover of Iron Butterflies Inagata Devita from the film Less Than Zero. That was a film from the 80s. I forgot I forgot who the actor was, but I remember watching it a long time ago. It's a pretty cool cover. I think like the band actually doesn't like that cover, but it's not a bad song. Okay, now we're into 1988, and Slayer records and releases South of Heaven. This one, they kind of slowed it down, got like a little more melodic, but I think for me, this is one of my favorite, possibly in like 1, 2, or 3, I would rank it. Another one produced by Rick Rubin on Def Jam Recordings. Yep. But it's just a really killer album, even though like they slow it down. But South of Heaven, that one's awesome. Behind the Crooked Cross, Mandatory Suicide, I like that one. I like the cover of Dissident Aggressor. That's a Judas Priest cover. And Spill the Blood.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great one.
I mean, start to finish, it's just a great album. So I really like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great one. Okay.
Cool. So let me. There's not really much going on. So that was 1988. So this one. Well, let me go into 1989, and then I'll let you take over. Pretty much at this point, they're only touring. They're promoting South of Heaven, opening for Judas Priest on the Ram It Down tour, and they're touring with Nuclear Assault, Motorhead, and Overkill. So. Yeah, this band is getting pretty popular at this point. So that's it. That's 1989. So I'll let you
awesome
take over here.
Okie dokie. I'm just going to go through a few comments before we start. Johnny Mac saw Slayer live on Rain in Blood tour. My dad said that he saw them also on the Rain in Blood tour as well. That's the first time he saw Slayer as well. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Slayer. Slayer. Yeah. Cool. Aggressor. Yeah. Mikey likes Judas Priest. I'm not a big fan of Judas Priest, but I know Mikey is, so that's cool. Right. So yeah, let's begin the 1990s. So in 1990. The band returned into the studio with co-producer Andy Wallace to record their 5th album. For this album, they incorporated a lot more speed compared to the previous album, but also kept that more melodic side of South Heaven. So, on the 9th of October, they released Seasons in the Abyss. And this was the first album to be released under Rick Rubin's new Def American label, which had parted ways with the Def Jam label at the time because of differences. Not surprised, really, but So the album debuted at number 44 on the Billboard, and it peaked at number 40. And it was certified gold in 1992. It sold over 800,000 copies in the United States. And this album saw the first ever music video by the band, which is for the title track that was filmed at the Giza Pyramids in Egypt. And I personally think that this is not only one of the best Slayer albums, but probably one of the best metal albums of all time as well, because it's just like from start to finish, this is a near perfect album. If
Yeah,
not perfect.
yeah. I think this is one of my favorites. This one could possibly be my number one. It's between this one and
Yeah.
Hell Awaits. I mean, this is just it's
Mm-hmm.
just perfect because I like how they mix it up. They have like the fast thrash, and then they have like some of like the slower songs like Dead Skin Mask, Seasons in the Abyss, Skeletons of Society. I like the like chugging sound.
Yeah. Expendable Youth is one of my favorites. I really like that song. I don't know why, but I've always enjoyed that one. Obviously, the title, we said about the title track, the opening track, War Ensemble, just classic song.
Yeah. I remember that was the first. That was the first single. Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, and Spirit in Black as well. Yeah, just all in all, it's just a fantastic album. And definitely one of their best, at least in the top 3, at least.
Yeah.
So, after that, they started touring. In September, they co-headlined the European Clash of the Titans tour with Megadeth. And they also had Suicidal Tendencies and Testament. During the European leg, the shows pretty much sold out, and the ticket prices went to over $600 on the black market. They were that sought after, which I guess after an album like Seasons in the Abyss, like everyone wanted to go and see him at the time, I guess. Divine Intervention. We're going to get to Divine Intervention in a second. So 1991, with the popularity of American thrash around that time, the band toured again with Testament at the beginning of that year. And they triple headlined the North American version of the Clash of the Titans with Megadeth, Anthrax, and Alice in Chains. The band released a double live album called Decade of Aggression on the 22nd of October, which celebrated 10 years of the band's formation. The album was recorded while Slayer were on their Seasons in the Abyss tour over 3 different shows, and it debuted at number 55 on the Billboard 200. So 1992. In May of 1992, Dave Lombardo left the band due to conflicts with other members, as well as wanting to be off tour for the birth of his first child. After this, Lombardo formed his own band called Grip Inc. with Voodoo Cult guitarist Waldemar Sorica. So Slayer recruited former Forbidden drummer Paul Bostaph to replace Lombardo, and they made their first appearance at the Monsters of Rock festival in Donington that year. Oh yeah, would have been really cool to have seen them back in them days in the early 90s. That's all right, man. We're going to get there very, very soon. So that's cool. Yeah, nice. That's awesome. Okay, so in 1993, they recorded a medley of a couple of Free Discharge songs for the soundtrack of the film Judgment Night, which I thought was quite interesting. And so yeah,
that was with the rappers. Yeah. Judgment Night soundtrack. They recorded like every metal band like just teamed up with a different rapper, and they made songs.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's a bit weird. So we got them to blame for new metal then. Okay. So 1994, on the 27th of September, they released their 6th album, Divine Intervention. And I literally just showed this in a collection update not that long ago. The album features songs about Henrad Hedrick, who was an architect of the Holocaust, and also Jeffrey Dahmer as well. A lot of dark themes in this album included like murder, evils of the church, government, and stuff like that. Tom Araya had a lot of interest in like stories about serial killers that inspired a lot of the lyrics. The album's production was always a big criticism of the album, mainly because the band having to use multiple studios to record due to time constraints that was caused by their record label at the time. I remember seeing an interview that Tom Araya did on Loudwire, and he was saying that I think they had to move studios about 3 times during the recording process, and he said that was just really didn't help the album, and that's why it was never one of their favorites, because it was an arse to record it. But it did actually done pretty well in the charts. It got up to number 8 on the US Billboard. They had sold over 93,000 copies in its first week, and it later went on certified gold. And I've got to be honest. I listened to this and brought it blind a couple of weeks ago, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good, and I thought it was one that doesn't really get talked about that much compared to other albums.
Yeah, it's definitely underrated.
Yeah,
people don't talk about it much. I think it's a good one.
Yeah, I think it's great. It definitely had like that Seasons in the Abyss sort of sound, but it's sort of the more slower elements of Seasons in the Abyss, and it sort of had a bit more of a punky vibe with songs like Ditto Head as well, and Sex Murder Art.
Yeah,
but Divine Intervention definitely sounded very like Seasons in the Abyss style. But yeah, I thought there were some really great songs like Killing Fields as well, Circle of Beliefs, SS3, and the last song, Mind Control. All really good songs.
Yeah.
Slayer related. Watch funny video of Tom pushing a fan off stage because he got too close to it. Oh dear. I wouldn't expect that. I wouldn't expect that from Tom. Tom always acts like such a nice guy. I wouldn't expect that of him. But I mean, some crazy things happen on tour. Okay, 1995 now. And on the 28th of August, they released an EP called Serenity and Murder, which featured that song from Divine Intervention and a couple of live songs. And after this, they geared up for another big world tour with openers Biohazard and Machine Head. From the tour, they did a video of the concert, and they called it Live Intrusion. It was released on 31st of October. It features a joint cover of Venom's Witching Hour with Machine Head. Following tour, the Slayer were billed third on the 1995 Monsters of Rock Festival, which was headlined by Metallica. In 1996, on the 28th of May, they released Undisputed Attitude, which is an album of punk covers, and they covered songs by Minor Threat, TSOL, DRI, DI, Verbal Abuse, Dr. No, and the Stooges. And it also features 3 original tracks that Jeff Hanneman wrote in a side project in 1984, 1985 called Pap Smear, that obviously never did anything, but was sort of more like a hardcore punk kind of sounding band. And then also there's that other track that they wrote especially for that album as well. It's one original at the end, I think. Actually, that might be Gemini, I think.
Gemini.
Yeah. And the album peaked at number 34 on the Billboard. And I actually hadn't listened to the album before. I listened to it whilst making my notes for this. And I mean, I'm not a massive fan of covers albums, or I'm not a massive punk hardcore fan, but I thought it was quite a cool listen. It's not a very long album. It's about half an hour, just over. And I thought it was quite fun. I thought it was quite cool, even though, I mean, I know it's put in with their official discography, but really I don't think it should be, because, there's always that thing with covers albums. Shouldn't be labeled as a proper album. But I thought it was pretty cool. Let's see. Playing Psychopathy Red. Oh, okay, that's cool. Right, okay. Yeah, that's a song that they did from the Undisputed Attitude album. I think it was I can't quite remember now. It might have been a Verbal Abuse or Dr. No cover, I think. Richard Hung himself. Rings a bell from that album. Yeah. And it's pretty cool though. It's a pretty cool album. Okay, so after the recording of Undisputed Attitude, Paul Bostaph left the band shortly after the recording to start work on his own project, Truth About Seafood. So with Bostaph gone, they recruited Testament drummer John Detty, and they headlined the 1996 Ozfest with Ozzy Osbourne, Danzig, Biohazard, Sepultura, and Fear Factory. After that, Detty was fired due to fallout with the members, and then Paul Bostaph returned after that and carried on. I said that. That's fine. Right, okay. So 1997, the band went into the studio to record their next album, and it was completed in September, and it was pretty much ready to go, ready to release the month after. However, the release was put back 9 months due to their label being taken over by Columbia Records at the time. After that, they appeared on the soundtrack to the film Spawn, with some similar to the Judgment one, and they had some completely different artists to them. Trevor's come in and set the record straight. He said that punk album sucked. I think that's a bit harsh. I thought it was good, man.
No, I thought it was pretty good. I like the song Mr. Freeze. That was I like that one, but
it
was
pretty cool. Slayer doing hardcore punk. I thought it was really cool. I quite liked it. But I know it's not essential. It's not an essential album. Speaking of not essential albums, here we go. 1998, they released Diablos in Musica on the 9th of June. It debuted at number 31 on the Billboard, selling over 46,000 copies in its first week. The album received a mixed reception. It was criticised for adopting characteristics of nu metal with the down-tuned guitars, murky chord structures, and chunking beats. The album was the band's first to primarily feature the drop tuning. Preferably, they used drop C sharp, making use of the tritone interval, which was basically a term that was come up in the Middle Ages, known as the Devil's Interval, otherwise known as Diablos in Musica. And Jeff Hanneman wrote the album pretty much all on his own, except for one song that was written by Araya and King. And this is another one that I hadn't listened to before making this, and obviously I had to because I was going to cover the 90s, and I really didn't enjoy it. I've got to be honest. I know this one, a lot of people have this one towards the bottom, if not at the bottom. And, I listened to it. I thought there were some cool songs, but then there was some as equally bad songs as well. I just really didn't like, although I'm not a massive fan of nu metal anyway, and it kind of had that sort of alternative nu metal-y kind of vibe, which I wasn't that into, to be honest. But I don't know.
I think it's okay. I mean, there's some. I like a few songs. I like "Stain of Mind." I like "Love to Hate." I agree. It's different. There's a lot of more nu metal, but I don't know. Like ranking it, I mean, it would probably be towards the bottom. I don't know if it would be like the lowest for me because I like some of it, but it's different. Like in the late '90s, like every like thrash metal band were either doing something like grunge or they were doing groove. They're trying to be like Pantera or industrial or nu metal. And out of all like those albums, comparing this to whether it's Saint Anger, Megadeth, Risk, Anthrax, I think it was Volume 8. I mean, this one might be a little better than those, I would say, but no, it was the late '90s. It's just like it was the time. It was,
yeah. Although to be fair, as you say, this one probably is the more aggressive out of those albums you just mentioned. If you want aggression, and you know what you don't get from those, it probably is worth a listen. But for me personally, it strays too much into the nu metal for me. But let's see. That's Head and Bit of Peace. Okay, cool. Drop C tuning. Yeah, I like Drop C. I've got a guitar in Drop C. Yeah, pretty cool. If they had a better album art in the 90s than Metallica. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, to be fair, the Diablos and Musica album art is actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
It is actually a pretty cool album art. So I'll give it that. And that's about it. So after that, the band paid tribute to Black Sabbath by recording a cover of Hand of Doom for the second of two tribute albums called Nativity in Black 2. After that, they did a world tour to support their new album, and they made an appearance at the UK Ozfest as well that year. And then after that, in 1999, there was absolutely nothing. So I just guess they carried on touring Diablos and Musica, and then, after that, we got into the 2000s. So back over to John for the 2000s.
Okay. So 2000, the year 2000, I don't have anything on that. So let's jump into 2001. So I have on tour. They tour with Morbid Angel, Pantera, a band called Scrape, I don't know them, and Static X on the Extreme Steel tour of North America, and that was actually Pantera's last major tour. Then 2001, they released God Hates Us All, and this is a very famous, There's actually two different album covers. I think that's like the cleaner one. The other one.
The other one is it. Yeah.
It shows like the Bible. But...
Yeah.
That's like the other album cover. I think that one. This was released on September 11, 2001. which was on 9/11, the attacks on the World Trade Center in New York City. So that's why a lot of people, kind of think it's very kind of a strange coincidence that like it was an album with this title released on that day. But this is an album that it's a pretty good album. Let's see, released on American Recordings, produced by Rick Rubin again. I think they still had a little bit of that new metal sound, but it wasn't too much. They were bringing back thrash again, but they had like a little bit of the groove and then new metal. And I think they really did a good job just blending those styles just to make it fit into the times.
Yeah. This one's much better compared to the others. Some music, much better. Yeah. Some really good songs on here. Actually, I really enjoy this album.
Yeah.
Like Disciple, they still played that one to the end, and Payback as well. And also Bloodline, Seven Faces, Cast Down, some really God Sends Death, really good songs actually on this.
Yeah, definitely. I think my favorite will probably be Bloodline. That's one that I've had on playlists over the years. Okay, so let's move on. So this album, they actually received a Grammy nomination for Disciple, but they didn't win. It went to Tool, and their tour was postponed because of the September 11 attacks. But they're playing with Cradle of Filth in Europe. Okay, 2002, drummer Paul Bostaph leaves Slayer due to a chronic elbow injury, and original drummer Dave Lombardo, he's contacted, asked to finish the remainder of the European tour, and he accepts, and he actually returns to the band once again. So 2003, Slayer, they go on their Still Raining tour. They play Rain and Blood in its entirety. That must have been a great tour. Then they have a tour recorded in Maine. They have a DVD called Still Raining. Then they release a live album called War at the Warfield and a box set soundtrack to the Apocalypse. And they perform over 250 tour dates, headlining major music festivals like it says H82K2 or H2K2 or whatever that means. Ozfest European tour with Slipknot. 2004, preparing for a Download Festival in England, Metallica drummer Lars Ulrich falls ill, and Dave Lombardo and Slipknot drummer Joey Jordison take over. So I actually remember that. I remember when Joey Jordison died, I researched that, and they actually took over for Lars. So that's pretty cool. I'm jumping to 2006. So I have the album Christ Illusion. Let me just pick this one up in 2006. And so this one was released on August 8th, 2006, and released on American Recordings, produced by Josh Abraham. So he's a guy. He was actually a pop producer. He was doing he was producing Pink, Kelly Clarkson, and Linkin Park and different. So this one actually won a. It says that there's a Grammy award-winning songs, Eyes of the Insane and Final Six. So I found that interesting. It actually debuted at number 5. It was the highest charting at the time. Wow. Slayer inducted into Kerrang Hall of Fame. But let's look at this album. This is a pretty good album. It's not up at my top. It's not super memorable, but I like the song Jihad.
Yeah,
I really like the intro. They do that kind of the Middle Eastern sounds. Yeah, that's really good. And Cult, that's a really heavy song.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know about you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I actually hadn't. This was one of the ones that I hadn't listened to. So yeah, again, I listened to it for this, and I thought it was really good. Actually, it sort of mixed, or it's kind of took like what they were doing on God Hates Us All, sort of bringing that thrash back in, and
Yeah,
this one really brought the thrash properly back in, and sort of mixed it with their sort of newer sound as well.
yeah,
And yeah, I thought it was really good. I thought it was really solid, to be honest. I
yeah.
didn't
I
really.
think this is like the start of their more modern sound. Even though they don't have a lot of albums after this, I think they only have like about
No,
2 or 3
two
more
more.
after this. But
Yeah,
it's 2 more, right?
two more.
But
Yeah,
okay. So anyway, let's continue.
yeah. Okay. So
Well,
yeah.
still in 2006, the Unholy Alliance tour supporting Christ Illusion takes place with supporting bands In Flames, Mastodon, and Children of Bodom. 2007, Slayer tours Australia and New Zealand with Mastodon and performs at the Download Festival and Rock Am Ring. And then they join Marilyn Manson and Bleeding Through for a summer tour. 2008, kind of uncertainty about the band's future arises, but Kerry King is optimistic about producing more albums. Slayer participates in the European tour, the Unholy Alliance Chapter 3 with Trivium, Mastodon, and Amon Amarth. They co-headline the second Mayhem Festival in the summer. And then World Painted Blood, Slayer's 11th album, released on November 3rd, 2011. So you got that one, huh?
Yeah, I got that one. Yeah.
Let's talk about
Great.
this one. It's thrash,
Yeah.
released on American Recordings, produced by Greg Fiedelman. He's a metal producer. He did some alternative as well. So let's look at the track list. This one is it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I think it's not another one that's not like very memorable. I like a public display of dismemberment. I think that's a good one.
Mhm.
I like in the title track, World Painted Blood. Those are my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. I think. I think with this album, it's like there's nothing really bad about it, but it doesn't really stand out like a lot of other albums do. Because I think
Yeah.
I got this. I got this a couple of years ago. Actually, I think I got it last year, maybe the year before. I can't quite remember now. But yeah, it's a good album. Every time I've listened to it, I'm like, yeah, it's really good. But then I don't really tend to go back to it after that.
Yeah.
Sort of one of them albums. You listen to it, you think it's good, but then it's not good enough to be that memorable.
Yeah.
Most of the time, yeah. Although I think there's some really good songs on it, like let's have a look. Psychopathy Red, Human Strain, Hate Worldwide's a cool one. Snuff as well. Snuff is really cool. And obviously, yeah, the title track, World Painted Blood, is really cool as well. So yeah, I think it's a good album. I think it's really it's another solid one, but nothing like too outstanding. Let's have a look at some of the Trevor's back. We're on to the good Slayer. Oh man, you really don't like that mid to late 90s Slayer then?
Yeah, sure. Okay, it's cool. So this was released in 2009. I think that's let me see. That's almost all for me. Let me see what else I have here. Some in 2009, Slayer performs alongside Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax for the first Big Four concert in Poland. And that's about all I have. So I'll let you take over.
Yeah.
There's really not much more going on. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. Yeah, I did see that earlier comment, but I wanted to leave it. If Slayer did a collab with Cannibal Corpse, I think that'd be the craziest thing ever. But unfortunately, I don't think it would ever happen. Although we'll get on to that towards the end of the stream. We're going to do a little bit of a discussion on the band, basically. So we'll probably talk about that more later. But yeah, Slayer and Cannibal Corpse would be pretty cool if they did a collab. Yeah, okay, cool. So yeah, 2010, we've covered that little bit there. So yeah, on the 22nd of June 2010, Slayer, along with the Big Four, they did their famous concert in Bulgaria, Sofia, and it was put on this DVD, and yeah, it was actually sent via satellite to cinemas, obviously live, and then later released on this DVD that I've got here. They did a pretty cool set, if you can see that. If you can't, I'll read it out. So they start off with Well Painted Blood, and then Jihad, War Ensemble, Hate Worldwide, Seasons in the Abyss, Angel of Death, Beauty Through Order, Disciple, Mandatory Suicide, Chemical Warfare, South of Heaven, and Rain in Blood, which is a pretty awesome set. Not the Big Four. Yeah, that is cool when they do Am I Evil. Although, to be fair, the Slayer boys don't really get. I think it's only Dave Lombardo that really got involved in that. I think the rest of the Slayer guys, I think they buggered off home. Okay. So after that, they played several other dates as part of the Sonosphere Festival. Megadeth and Slayer joined forces again for the American Carnage tour from July to October 2010, with the opening acts Anthrax and Testament. And that would have been a fantastic gig to go to.
Yeah.
So 2011, the Big Four played some more dates at Sonosphere in England and France for the first time ever in France. Slayer returned to Australia in February and March as part of the Soundwave Festival. And then they also played in California with the other members of the Big Four. In March, April, Slayer were joined by Megadeth, Anthrax and Testament once again for the European Carnage tour, which is pretty cool. And then in early 2011, this is where Jeff Hanneman was diagnosed with necroticizing fasciitis, which basically he had contracted via a spider bite. And basically this virus started eating at his skin, and he had to undergo surgery to get the virus out of his body. I believe Tom did an interview and he said that they had to cut his whole arm open to get it all out. So because of that, Jeff wasn't able to play with the band. So they recruited Gary Holt of Exodus to come in to play their upcoming tour. And then also Cannibal Corpse guitarist Pat O'Brien filled in for Gary Holt during the European tour. So, yeah, on the 23rd of April, the American Big Four show in Idaho, California, Hanneman rejoined his bandmates to play the final two songs of their set list, which was South of Heaven and Angel of Death. And this sadly turned out to be the last ever performance with Jeff Hanneman, as he passed away a few years later. Oh, that's cool. I'll check that out later. Okay. To celebrate the 25th anniversary of Rain in Blood, the band performed the album in its entirety at the All Tomorrow's Parties Festival at the Alexandra Palace in London. In November, Lombardo posted a tweet that the band had started to write some new music. and that showed that Jeff's condition was improving, and they were getting ready to enter the studio. Around 2012, the band planned on entering the studio around March or April, and were hoping to have the album recorded before their US tour in May, for it to be released later that year. However, King said about the upcoming album would not be finished, so they put it back to a 2013 release. However, in July that year, King revealed 2 song titles for the upcoming album, Chasing Death and Implode. Okay, so 2013, in February, Dave Lombardo was fired right before Slayer were about to play in Australia's Soundwave Festival due to an argument with the band members over a pay dispute. He wasn't very happy with the amount of money he was getting. Typical. So after that, Detty returned to fill in for Lombardo for the Soundwave dates. So after that, it was confirmed that Lombardo was officially out of Slayer for a 3rd time. And also in May of that year, Paul Bostaph rejoined the band for a 3rd time again. However, on the 2nd of May, Hanneman died due to liver failure in a local hospital near his home in Southern California. The cause of death was later determined to be alcohol-related cirrhosis. So, yeah. So, yeah, Kerry King confirmed that the band would carry on. They'd continue with his spirit still here, basically. However, Araya felt a little more uncertain about the band's future at the time. He basically said that it would be like starting over again, and he doubted whether the Slayer fans would approve of a change, such a drastic change. But despite the uncertainty around the band's future, they still worked on a follow-up album, and it was also reported that the new album would still feature material that was written by Hanneman. And also, to anyone in the chat or anyone watching this after the fact, if you were around at the time and you remember at the time, what was the main reaction, and also to you, John, as well? What was the big reaction around this at the time? Because this must have been, I mean, for me at the time, I didn't even know who Slayer was. I was 13. I was just about getting into this stuff, so I didn't even know who Slayer was. So that, like, when I heard that Jeff Hanneman passed away, didn't really mean anything to me at the time because I didn't know the band. My dad obviously was quite gutted because, you know, he'd been a massive Slayer fan since the 80s, but I want to get a little bit of a perspective on that from someone who was there at the time, just to get a bit more of a reaction. So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember it was something that was talked about a lot in the metal community. I wasn't at around this time, I wasn't really into Slayer, but I remember reading about it, people talking about it. But it was it was like a big loss because I think with him dying, it's kind of like, when a major member of a band like Slayer would die, it's kind of like when a member of like Metallica dies, kind of. It's really a big thing. So I think this kind of like led to them just doing one more album and then calling it quits. I know you're going to talk about Repentless, but
yeah, but yeah, yeah, that's quite interesting. I didn't really think about it that way because I mean, we're going to get into it a little bit after this, but like, I wonder if at that point then maybe they had the little inkling of like maybe a couple more years and then we might call it a day. Potentially, you don't know how much of an impact it really had on them, because they haven't really, they do like to keep themselves to themselves a lot, especially Kerry King. I mean, he doesn't really go on like interviews and talk about stuff like this anyway, really. So, yeah, I thought it was quite interesting just to see what people thought at the time. So, yeah, let's move on to 2014. So, at the Revolver's Golden Gods Award ceremony, Slayer debuted Implode for the first time, first new song in 5 years. The band also announced that they had signed with Nuclear Blast Records and that they had planned to release a new album the following year. Also, Gary Holt would take over Hanneman's guitar duties full-time, although Holt did not participate in any of the songwriting for the upcoming album. In February, they announced a 17-day American tour starting in June with Suicidal Tendencies and Exodus. So now 2015, Slayer headlined the Rockstar Energy Mayhem Festival for the second time on the 11th of September. And then they released their 12th and final album, Repentless. It was produced by Terry Date, so it's the first without Rick Rubin for 29 years. And the album was the longest gap between albums in their whole career. And it debuted at number 4 on the Billboard 200. And yeah, I think this is a really good one. It's a really good one to end on.
Yeah.
Because obviously they haven't done anything since, and they probably never will. And quite coincidentally, this was my first Slayer album. When I started getting into the band around 2018, when I went to see them on the tour. And I picked this up because it was their newest one at the time. I mean, little did we know at the time that it was going to be the last one. But I think there's some really good songs on here, like obviously the title track Repentless, Take Control, Cast the First Stone, You Against You. I think that's a really good song, You Against You. It's really, really great. And this one comes with Live at Wacken in 2014. So it's got pretty good set list on it. It's got Hell Awaits, The Antichrist, Mandatory Suicide, Hate Worldwide, War Ensemble, Postmortem, Capture of Sin, Disciple, Seasons in the Abyss, Born of Fire, Dead Skin Mask, Rain in Blood, Black Magic, South of Heaven, Angel of Death, which is pretty awesome. And actually, I have watched that, but I kind of want to watch it again, to be honest. I haven't watched it in such a long time that. So, yeah. So still sits heavily with me. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. I think it's a pretty good album, to be honest. Like I said, it's a really good one for them to end on, with that being their last album. Yeah, I put it in my notes. I think Jeff would have been proud of that album, that they just, the fact that they carried on and put something out. And I'm pretty certain that the song When the Stillness Comes, that was actually written in tribute to Jeff Hanneman. I'm pretty certain Kerry King wrote that in tribute to him. So, yeah, I think it's a pretty good fitting album. So, yeah, after that, they went on tour. They had a 2.5-year tour in support of the album. So, yeah, they in October and November that year, they toured in Europe with Anthrax and Kvelertak. In 2016, they embarked on the first 2 parts of a 3-part North American tour. The first one with Testament and Carcass in February and March. Yeah. Then second one with Anthrax and Death Angel in September and October. So around this time, there were pretty heavy rumors spreading about a potential follow-up to Repentless, with King saying at the time would have been a possible 2018 date when they were going to enter the studio for this possible next album. In 2017, so they embarked on that final leg of the North American tour trilogy, and they played with Lamb of God and Behemoth in July and August. And then they also played one lone date in Southeast Asia in the Philippines, which I thought was quite interesting. And then there were some more murmurs about a potential follow-up album. Gary Holt stating multiple times his desire to contribute some material on the next album. And then, however, in 2018, on the 22nd of January, Slayer announced their farewell tour through a video featuring a montage of press clippings, early posters, press photos, spanning over the band's whole career. Although the members never publicly explained why they were retiring from touring, but it was always thought that it possibly was to do with Tom Araya's desire not to tour anymore. He wanted to spend more time with his family. And Dave Lombardo, in an interview, kind of confirmed that. And he also said that Tom was suffering from some neck issues as well. And he was kind of just done with touring and playing. He just didn't want to do it anymore. So this announcement pretty much put to rest any rumors of a potential album. If they were working on anything, it got cancelled and seemingly will never see the light of day, which is a shame, but it is what it is. So after that, their farewell tour began with a North American leg in May and June, which was supported by Lamb of God, Anthrax, Behemoth, and Testament. The second leg of the North American tour took place in July and August, with Napalm Death replacing Behemoth. After that, they played one show in Mexico at the Force Fest in October, followed by, in November and December, a European tour with Lamb of God, Anthrax, and Obituary, which I went to, and I remember it because not to get too sidetracked, but it was at Wembley Arena, and the people on the door took so long for us to get in that we missed the whole of Obituary and we missed the start of Anthrax, and I was very, very furious at the time. But you know, Lamb of God and Slayer kind of made up for it in the end because they were both fantastic on the night. Yeah, farewell tours, always sad. Yeah, appreciate the bands. Yeah. Oh yeah, like Motley Crue.
Yeah.
Still on a farewell tour 20 years later. Yeah, after that, on the 2nd of December, Gary Holt announced that he would not perform the remainder of the band's European tour in order to be with his dying father at the time. Yeah, I think his father passed away around that time. So Gary Holt pretty much just quit the tour. And to fill in for the rest of those dates, they got Violence and ex-Machine Head guitarist Phil DeMel. Saw them twice in 2004 and 2010, and they kicked ass. Awesome. That's cool. Yeah, they were great when I saw them as well. Although I would say this, just to off topic, well, not really off topic, but when I saw them, there were a few times where Tom would miss his vocal cue. Like, he'd come in late. He was too busy walking around the stage, and he'd miss his vocal queue to come in, which you kind of, looking back at it now, it's like maybe that was a sign of his issues. He kind of was getting fed up with it then, even still on the farewell tour, that he kept missing vocal lines because he was wandering about the stage, just jamming away. It was, he didn't really think much of it, but now thinking back at it, maybe that was sort of part of it as well. A part of them wanting to retire because Tom just completely had enough of it. In 2019, the farewell tour continued. They visited places such as South America, Australia, and Japan. In addition to European festivals such as Hellfest, Grasshop, and also Download, which for some reason I didn't have in my notes, but I know they definitely played Download that year. After that, they toured the United States in May with Lamb of God, Amon Amarth, and Cannibal Corpse. Now, that would have been a good show. There you go. There's your Slayer and Cannibal Corpse. The final North American leg of the tour, which was dubbed The Last Campaign, took place in November and included support from Primus, Ministry, and Phil Anselmo and the Illegals. On the 8th of November, they released the live album, The Repentless Trilogy, live from the Forum in Inglewood, California. After that, the band played their final ever show on the 30th of November. And then the band seemingly no more. So after that, basically, since the band's retirement, there's been quite a few rumblings about a potential reunion, about a potential, comeback. Kerry King stating a couple of times that he's had material that is ready to go. And also he recently had a new guitar endorsement with Dean Guitars. And also in 2021, King stated that perhaps Slayer retired too early. That was on the Machine Head 30th anniversary thing. A load of musicians, including Kerry King, sort of congratulated Machine Head on their 30th anniversary. And Kerry King basically come out and said it straight. He said that we retired too early. We got to 30 years and then we carried on and then stopped, and we really should have carried on. So that kind of sparked a little bit of a debate, thinking whether Slayer are going to come back or not. And I think it would be a perfect way to sort of end this stream, have a bit of a discussion, talking about whether we think Slayer might return in some form in the future. We'll get the chat to make their decision as well. If anyone in the chat, or if you're watching this after the fact, because I'll link this I'll clip this up for anyone watching this after the fact, whether you think Slayer might return. So I'm going to start with John to give his 2 cents on this.
As far as I know, I think they're done. I don't think like they're not going to get together. From what I've been reading online, it appears that Tom Araya just has no interest in just getting back together or anything like that. What I would think it would be a good idea for Kerry King to get together a new band. Maybe Kerry King and Paul Bostaph can get together, and maybe Dave Lombardo. Don't call it Slayer, because it's just going to turn into this whole big thing that it's like they're carrying on, and that's not the whole Slayer. I mean, just avoid that. Come up with a whole new name, and they should just put together a new band, play some thrash, play the same style, and just move on. I think that's how these guys are gonna continue, because I'm trying to read online. I'm seeing Kerry King didn't like after Slayer. He didn't really. I don't see him doing anything. There were like a couple of things here and there. Like he did one guitar solo for the band Witchery. He was in that movie Studio 666. He had a short acting part, but I think it would be cool. He should really put a band together and come up with a new name. I mean, he can call it something similar to Slayer. I mean, he can call it Hell Awaits or whatever he wants to call it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I wouldn't call it Slayer because then
not KK Slayer.
No,
not KK Slayer.
That sounds cheesy. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, because you think of the band. There's a band. What that band from Dio called Last in Line. I mean, they're like ex-members of Dio. That's a good band, and they're like, they're not taking over the Dio name. They're just going Last in Line. They're like naming it after one of their albums. I think that's cool. So he should make a band, name it after a Slayer album. You can call it Rain and Blood, wherever he wants to call it. And I think it would be like a really awesome. But yeah, because I was gonna go to that comment, but
that's cool.
Yeah, it's gonna turn into like another one of those things like the whole Pantera reunion, where like
pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. So so Mikey said this. They should just do a few shows, meaning a few venues. Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, Trev, that's exactly what I was going for. KK Slayer, like KK's Priest. Oh yeah. Oh god, yeah. I remember Trev's rant on KK's Priest. Oh god, the War Ensemble. Yeah, that's not bad.
That would be cool. Yeah,
not bad. I think that's pretty cool, man. Okay. So what I was basically thinking about this is that similar to what Mikey just said there, I think they could probably come back and do a couple of shows, but I don't think it'll be with Tom. I think even if they did that, Kerry King gets Dave Lombardo or Paul Bostaph to come in and do the drums, gets Gary Holt to do the guitars. I don't think he's going to be able to get Tom. It doesn't matter. I don't think it matters whatever he says. I don't think Tom is ever going to step foot on a stage ever again. And as sad as that is, but I mean, he's pretty happy with his life, looking after his family, sort of stepping away from the limelight of being a famous musician. He's happy doing that, and that's fair enough. You can't really hold that against him, really. So then I was kind of thinking to myself, if they were going to get like other people to come in and almost like mimic Tom, I was thinking who would be the best person you can get to come in and bring like spirit of Tom without being Tom. So, I was trying to think of like vocalists and that, but his vocal style is so distinctive. It's like it would be so hard to replicate. So the only person that I could think of that would make sense is David Sanchez from Havoc. And if anyone out there knows the band Havoc, there's a song of Time Is Up called DOA, and towards the end of the song, David Sanchez does this Tom Araya-esque Angel of Death scream, and it sounds as close as you can get it, without it being like AI controlled or whatever. So, and I've thought, what? And then he does this vocal style that sounds very similar to Tom. It wasn't exact, obviously, but probably the closest as you would get. And because he plays guitar as well, it would make sense for him to switch over and play bass in Slayer and do the vocals. So that was my big theory. If they were to do it, get him. Although another possibility I was thinking, if you wanted to just get a bass player and a vocalist. You could always get Rex Brown, but I was thinking David Sanchez. I thought that would be cool. But if they did that, I don't think they'd come back and do an album. I think it'd just be a couple of tours or whatever, or just a couple of shows. But I think what's more likely is what you said, John, a new Kerry King band, possibly featuring the artists that I've said. I know there was a lot of talk in 2021 and 2022. There was a lot of talk that Kerry King wanted to get a band with Gary Holt, Paul Bostaff, and Phil Anselmo.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that might be quite cool if they did like a groovy, thrashy kind of style, obviously with Phil Anselmo's vocals. I was thinking, I'd be down for that. I think that'd be really cool if they did something like that. I think that seems more likely to me than a proper Slayer reunion, unfortunately. But that's it. That's pretty much all I had to say on that. I'm just gonna go through some of the comments. Trevor's not happy with my Trevor's not happy. That one scream. It's close, but the dude replacing Tom, no. Okay, fair enough. Well, you listened to my argument, so that's fair enough. Kerry King with a new band. It's a far better idea. Yeah. Singer who's unknown. That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, I think if they did a Slayer thing, you wouldn't really be replacing Tom. It's like someone coming in and doing the best imitation. It's like the Pantera thing where they've got Charlie Benante and Zakk Wylde. They're not really replacing the Abbotts. They're just doing their best imitation to serve the band. It's basically gonna be that all over again, isn't it? If Slayer did come back without Tom and Jeff, it would basically be like the Pantera thing all over again. And I don't think the internet would be able to cope with that. Man. They did a cover of Slayer's Postmortem. And I think they did a cover of a Sepultura song as well. They did an album, not an album, an EP called Point of No Return. And they did that. And I think they did a Sepultura, but I can't remember what one it might have been a Rise. Can't quite remember. So Havoc are a really good band. I think that's it. I think that's it for the Slayer is what got me into thrash metal. That's awesome. Yeah. Slayer definitely helped me. Kind of the other way with me. Slayer kind of helped me get more into the more extreme metal and more death metal. And I saw this Primus. Cool. Right. Vader did a cover of Rain in Blood. That's cool. I've heard that. I like Vader, so definitely would have to check that out. Right. Okay. So I think that's about it. I haven't got anything more to say, John. Got nothing more to say. No. That's it. Okay. That's it. We'll call it a day here. We've been going nearly an hour and 20 minutes, so I think that's pretty cool. Happy Saturday. Yeah. Great stream. Yeah. Cheers for watching, man. I really appreciate it. Glad you enjoyed it, even though I know Mikey said he's not the biggest Slayer fan, so that's really cool that you watched the whole thing. Anyone watching this live or after the fact, I really hope you enjoyed watching this stream, and I hope you enjoy watching the whole series if you watched any of these from start to now, or anything? Cheers, man. Cheers, Trev.
Yeah, thanks.
So yeah, if you enjoyed this one and maybe the whole series, or it might make you want to go check out the previous episodes. You know, we've done Metallica, Megadeth, Iron Maiden, Ozzy Osbourne, and Slipknot,
and Testament.
And Testament. That's it. Yeah. I knew I was going to forget one. Yeah, I enjoyed the stream. Awesome. Cheers. Glad you enjoyed it. So, yeah, we're going to leave it there. Thanks ever so much for watching. And, yeah, Slayer. See ya. Cheers.